Today we're going to explore a little bit deeper the centrality that chemdas mammon, the desire for money, plays in our life and plays in the Torah. We often mistakenly think that work is like a side thing, and when you study business ethics or things like that, it's nice, it's a side part of our service to God. But it's not the main thing. The main thing is learning Torah, davening in a minyan, keeping mitzvahs. The purely kadosh parts of our service are seen as the central part of Avodas Hashem. And what we do at work, of course, you have to do it honestly and you have to do it right, but it's just a way of making a living. And today I really want to dispel that and dispel that hard, because I don't think that's the way the Torah sees it. We addressed that the driving force of a person at work, what keeps him there, what pushes there, what becomes the fuel for their motivation, inspiration, fulfillment, is their desire to make money. And the Vilna Gaon says the most incredible thing. How central is chemdas mammon to a person's service to God? He says as follows, that there's 10 commandments. And the 10th one, lo sachmoid, from the word chemda, don't desire. All it speaks about is the desire that a person could have for another person's possessions, and a whole list of them, or another person's spouse. Chemdas mammon and taivas noshim, the desire for money and the desire for sexuality. And the Gaon says on that 10th commandment, Kol ha'aveiros v'hachatoim boi mechemda. Every sin that a person does comes as a result of this thing called chemda. K'moshe amru, as our sages said, Ki lo sachmoid, the last commandment of the 10 commandments, lo sachmoid, koilel kol hadibros v'chol haTorah. It encompasses all the other 10 commandments and the entire Torah too. Meaning at the foundation stone of the fulfillment of the entire Torah lies this one command, the 10th of the 10 commandments. Don't have chemda for other people's mammon or for another person's spouse. It's at the center of the Torah. He carries on and says, V'histapkus, and being satisfied with what you have. Shehu hipuch, that's the opposite of a person who has chemdas mammon. So the one end of the spectrum is the desire for money, and the flip side is a midah called histapkus, or a state of being called histapkus, which means you've got enough. What we would call most colloquially samach bechelkoi. You're contented with your financial lot. You have no aspiration for more. So says the Gaon, the flip side of chemdas mammon, histapkus, hu yesoid shel kol haTorah. It's the foundation stone of the entire Torah. So let's be very clear here. We're going to explore this further. But one thing we can't escape, this sugya and topic of chemdas mammon and how we deal with it is not a side topic. It's not something you have to deal with from 9 to 5 or in office, and when you come home it disappears. This is the central sugya of the entire Torah according to the Gaon. The ability to move from a position of chemdas mammon to the fixed position of histapkus, of simcha bechelkoi, that journey unlocks the foundation to the entire Torah. So it makes the avodah that we're going to be exploring together very crucial. Because what we learn here about how we're supposed to build a business and grow our finances in the right way will not just affect our time in the office. It's going to permeate and transform our entire service to God and our entire relationship with Him. If it's the foundation of the entire Torah, when you start to shift the foundation and rebuild the foundation and structure it differently, the building and edifice that you build on top of that will look entirely different. I thought it would be interesting to share as well. There's endless sources which reinforce this, by the way, but the Mesilas Yesharim, he speaks about Chemdas Mammon in the 11th chapter in Nikias. It's the first topic that he deals with in Nikias, and he says as follows: V'ulam, you should know, however, even though in all Aveiras the Yetzer Hara tries to get a person to stumble, Kfar yesh mehem, there are those she'ateva mechamdam yoseh. There are certain areas which your nature desires much more than others. Uvahem, and in those areas, mare lo yoser teirim, the temptation to justify, to permit yourself things which are forbidden is much greater. Therefore, in those areas you need to strengthen yourself more in order to overcome and be victorious in this area. And to be sin-free. And that, says the Mesilas Yesharim, what our sages said, Gazel v'arayas, theft and promiscuity. Nafshoy shel Adam michmadosam umitavelehem. A person's inners yearn for them and desire them. Our sages picked out, of all the Aveiras in the Torah, 2 which your nature is prone towards, which it's very hard to pull yourself away from. Theft and sexual promiscuity. Now, I always learned this Gemara had this question: theft, I don't want to steal. No one wants to steal. Of course not. That's not what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying your desire for money, even though it doesn't belong to you, is very, very strong. Of course, if you knew it was blatantly theft, you wouldn't do it. But the grey line gets very, very white very, very quickly in this area because the desire for money is so powerful and so strong. And then the Mesilas Yesharim goes on to explore this midah and how far-reaching it is in affecting your life and permeating every area of your life. I'm going to pick out just two more paragraphs just to reiterate his point. He says as follows: he then, after theft, he speaks about sexual promiscuity, and after that he starts to speak about forbidden foods. And he says as follows: when he starts to speak about forbidden foods, he says the following thing: V'hamadrega hashlishis, the third level, achar hagezel v'harayas le'inyan hachemda, the third level in a person, after theft and after sexual promiscuity, regarding desires, meaning in the area of desire, if you want to know how the levels are built, top of the level is monetary desire, chemdas mama, the desire for money, which will lead you to steal. Underneath that, quite shockingly, I think for most, as a second only, is sexual promiscuity. And then he says, third on the list is the desire for forbidden foods. But he lays out clearly again that there's a desire inside of a human being, a thirst and a yearning for money, which is at the top of the rung for most people in the world. The Gemara does say roiv people will stumble in Gezel. Not all. There are a unique few who this is a little bit quieter in them. But assume that you're the default first before you wipe this away, because what I've seen in my experience is nobody likes to acknowledge it, that it's there and it's burning inside of them. And in fact, sometimes they may have been in experiences which have not allowed them to have this actually tapped on and touched in their life, and they don't know yet the Rottweiler that's lying inside. But assume that you're the default until proven otherwise, that the levels of desire in a person go number 1, chemdas mammon, number 2, taivas noshim, the desire for sexual promiscuity, and only after that, 3rd, the desire for forbidden foods. And he says the most beautiful thing, the Mesilas Yesharim. He says as follows, Oimnam klaloi shel davar, you should know the general principle of this matter is as follows. Kamoi shechemdas hamamon rabba, just like the desire for money is huge, it's magnanimous, kain machshloisav rabim, so too the stumbling blocks that are a byproduct of that desire are endless. In order for a person to be cleansed of this tray completely in truth, you need to go deep into the sugya. You need to understand this thing well, learn it up well, deeply. And then you have to be exceptionally careful in the way you conduct yourself if you've got any hope of succumbing it. Hopefully, through exploring this topic together, we are going to do Iyun Godel in this area. Explore it in all its avenues, which will then give us the groundwork and platform for the work that we're going to have to do, the Dikduk Godel, the very conscientious work we're going to have to do to work through it. And he says to him, if you do cleanse yourself of this tray, if you're able to move from a position of chemdas mammon to a position of histapkus, of being contented with what you have financially, Yada, he says, you should know, shehigia kfar lemadreiga gedola. You have reached an incredible level in avodas Hashem. Ki rabim yitchastu ba'anofim. Rabbi, many people will achieve Chassidus in many areas. Me'anfei Chassidus, in areas of Chassidus, of righteousness. They'll grow in many, many areas. Ube'inyan sinas hapetza lo yachlu lagia el mechoz hashleimus. But in this area of not wanting gain, they're not able to get to perfection in it. It's the one thing which remains elusive and hard for people to achieve, even though they grow in many, many other areas in their spirituality and in their avodas Hashem. This area lags behind because it's so hard to conquer. So I think the challenge has been set for us very clear. We're dealing through the course of the Ishurim with an absolutely central topic. It's not business ethics. We're learning about how to deal with chemdas mammon, the way Ben Torah should deal with it. And that's at the foundation of the entire Torah, says the Gaon. If you fix this and you move this, you've got the foundation of Torah correct. It's the 10th of the 10 commandments because it encompasses all of them. And like the Mesilas Yesharim says, you should know that this desire for money is burning deep inside of you. It's number 1 on the list of desires for most human beings, and we should assume that's the default. Let's begin to unpack how this desire works, purely based on the sources of the Torah. Let the Psukim, let the Tanoim, let the Amoraim enlighten us, and let us use this incredible gift of the Torah to shed light on a topic which will transform our entire avodas Hashem. If we're able to approach it right, we have all the foundations correct, knowledge at our disposal, and then are exacting and careful in the way we execute every single decision that we make in the workplace.